Welcome to Life Lessons with Dr. Cunningham, where who you are matters more than what you do. This channel features high level professionals who share their lived experiences and lessons learned. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's episode is going to be a little different than usual because I would like to actually address a show that I've been watching and have had an opportunity to watch the second season, Bridgerton. Now, this particular show was written by Shonda Rhimes' team, and it is being produced by Shondaland. And it is essentially a story that is set in London amongst aristocrats or high class individuals. And it represents families and especially bachelors and bachelorettes that are going through their consideration of a courting season. And so I really like the show. One, because it represents a diversity of ethnicities among those who are part of the aristocrats or those who are considered royalty. You see an increase in interethnic and interracial relationships and marriages. So I think that's a great representation of the way things are now, even in the United States. The highest increase in marriages that are amongst interethnic and uh, interracial relationships and marriages specifically, which means that there are a lot more interethnic and interracial children that are growing up now through the alpha generation and that have even through the millennial generation. And we'll see a lot more of it moving forward. There's research that shows that basically by 2050, a lot of the United States is really going to look interethnic and brown because there are people that are considered minority status as ethnicity or culture or nation of origin to mix with those who are of European descent. And then also all of the culmination of the many different the ethnicities, different nations of origin that are all considered minority as well, which means you may see someone Black with someone Asian. You may see someone European with someone of Indian Asian descent. We see that as a great example, even most recently, our Vice President, Kamala Harris, who is interethnic and interracial, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, who is married to a Caucasian man and has interethnic and interracial children. And so the list goes on and on. Even Barack Obama, or excuse me, our former president, Barack Obama, was interethnic and interracial. So there's a lot of that that's being expressed through this particular show. And in episode two, or excuse me, season two, it focuses on the diamond, who is essentially an Indian Asian young lady, very much brown skin, and her being considered the diamond, which is the bachelorette chosen for that particular season as the best bachelorette in order to essentially be married, with a bachelor. And during this particular season, I really like the fact that when you look at the dynamics between men and women, you see some of the sort of stereotypical traditional viewpoints regarding how men approach discussing women amongst the men, where a lot of times they are objectified. Women are seen as, based on their beauty, their ability to be able to make children. Those are very old school and traditional viewpoints. And also, I would say, as a female that considers biases, it bends toward being quite misogynistic to expect a woman just to be good for making children and to be an arm piece, so to speak. At the same time, that is something that is very relevant as far as a narrative amongst particular classes of people, and I would say even across classes. So whether one is considered having a certain income within their family versus middle class or upper class income, or part of the one percenters. But that is a mindset that you'll see across the board, and even more so among those who feel as though they have resources to expend. So then they're looking for, quote unquote, the trophy. Now, amongst one of the most eligible of the bachelors, he was a Bridgerton. And of course, the show is about Bridgerton, which means that that particular family amongst that society was considered well off and respected. And for Mr. Bridgerton, or Viscount, excuse me, Bridgerton, he actually decided, even though he had a list of requirements, who he actually ended up falling in love with, who was someone that was quite opposite of what they considered during that time to be the main reasons to choose a particular wife, or someone whom a man should fall in love with that has a position of power. And he actually decided that he preferred the woman whom was just as good, if not better than him, riding horses. So it has to do with sports, and also was well read, and also understood the etiquette of the time. And she was very independent because she had the mindset that she wanted to be able to travel the world. And she really did not actually want to settle down and get married. And she was considered, of those times, an old maid. Now, there are certain cultures, even now, that still consider a woman after a certain age being considered an old maid. Even though that is quite antiquated viewpoint, it is still something that, certain cultures or narratives within that culture that they hold on to. So you have this gentleman who is this eligible bachelor, who falls in love with the woman who's able to ride a horse faster than he does. And he falls in love with a woman who tells him her mind, and he actually cares to hear her opinion. And this particular viewpoint is even, I believe, explained or even confirmed further when there is one particular scene where his father had just passed away. And his father, of course, was the head of the household in the Viscount. His father passes away, and then that puts him in the position to be Viscount, or the head of the household at that point, as being the eldest son. And his mother was pregnant at the time. His mother's about to have a child, but the child is actually breached, literally flipped upside down the wrong way. And the doctor within the home is saying, we have to ask the head of the household what to do. Do we choose the life of the child, or we choose the life of your mother? Because the way that this particular birth is set up at this time, one life may be lost. And what was decided by the Viscount, because he actually had the rights to be able to say, choose this life over the other, he looked at his mother and said, what do you want to do? Now, to anyone else, it might just seem like, the noble thing to do. But the reality is that with consideration of tradition, he had all rights to choose what was going to happen with his mother's body. But he said, let the woman choose. That is major, not only for that time in the aristocratic way, but then also consideration of now and everything that's going on in the United States with regards to whether the woman should have a choice of what she does with her body or not. A Viscount in a traditional monarchy, again, this is rule based on royalty and then classes. And he said, let his mother choose what she wants to do with her own body. That's quite feminist for a man to consider a woman's opinion. Again, so this particular Viscount, Bridgerton, I really like his character because he respects women. He respects what they think. He respects their opinions, and he voices his own, and he's willing to challenge them, but he's okay with also being challenged, which from my perspective, I have to say, means that he is very confident and comfortable in his manhood because he's okay with someone else, especially of the gender according to society during that times, which was weaker. Now, a lot of times, even with consideration of being a Christian woman, we always look at that from the standpoint of, the woman is weaker than the man. And so there's certain Bible verses and ways of viewing femininity, masculinity, a man and a woman in a way where it was utilized in order for a man to utilize his authority to usurp a woman from even having any sense of authority. But the reality is that things worked better, not only in the show, but also I find in real life and working with clients, when the man and the woman bring forth their strengths in order to work together. So for the Viscount to hear his mother, for the Viscount to hear the opinion of one of the ladies that he ended up really liking and wanting to court to marriage, led to him being better. And I could see or foresee the potential of his family even being better off because of the fact that he chose and decided to be with a woman that had intelligence and wisdom and was not afraid to speak her mind. Now, that could mean that there are some men that are okay with that opinion. I'm okay with that if they're not. But the situation is now is that we really do have to not push under the rug, but have more open discussions regarding, are we really honoring the intelligence, the wisdom, and the opinions of those who have viable points, irregardless of their gender? I think that's something to ponder, because would we be where we are now with the Kamala Harris or Ketanji Brown Jackson in positions of power if we were not willing to hear their opinions? Now, I can't refute the fact that each of them had a mountainous fight, magnanimous fight to get to that point of their opinion being valued, even though they had to deal with still those being in the positions that they're in and denying the fact that they have intelligence or wisdom, but yet and still they move forward because they know that their opinion matters. So at this state, what I would say about Bridgerton and about life is that, when we are open to considering what someone shares with us, even if they don't necessarily fit the external viewpoint that we see as authority or power, we may be better off because of it. And so my hope is that people look beyond the surface and are willing to say, you know what? I'm open to being able to learn something new beyond my own biases. I am open and willing to connecting with someone new that helps me to expand beyond my own psychological and relational cultural capacity, because they can possibly help me to be a better person. And that's the hope, ultimately, right? For us to be better people. So that means being able to reach our hand across color lines, reaching our arm or hand across cultural lines, and saying, what can I learn from you? And what can you learn from me? Not from a place of fear, not because it's from a place of being pushed to have to, but it's with a willingness and an open heart to say, look, we are always better when we're able to collaborate together. It's a good place to start. And so I trust that you all will subscribe to the channel, like and share, and review this episode as often as you need to. There's so much more I definitely would like to talk about. So until next time, you have a great